My name is Melissa Bernheimer, and I am the school safety lead at Region 9 Education Service Center. And I'm going to be doing the first part of this presentation, and then the second part is going to be Jessica Hoffman, and I'll let her introduce herself whenever she takes over. But we're going to be talking about really recharging your battery and breaking for self-care or for some wellness time as parents. And this is so important, especially at this time of the year when it seems like every time we turn around, there's another activity or another get together, another event. And so, every time of the year as parents, it seems like we're super busy, but especially this time of the year around holidays, we just really need to try to take some time to pause and reflect and really make sure that we're taking care of ourselves so we can be the best for our families. Okay, that is not going to the next slide. What is wrong with this? Oh, there we go. All right, so our overview of our time together today, we're going to understand what self-care is and what it isn't, because sometimes there's some misconceptions about that. We're going to recognize when our fuel tank is running low, because our body and our emotions do give us some indications of that. And then we're going to learn some practical, realistic strategies to recharge. It's not always these uh, grand gestures that we have to do to take care of ourselves and recharge our batteries. So, we're using this car analogy to talk about refueling ourselves and self-care. And so, the first thing we want to do really is check our gauges. So, if we think about our energy and our wellness like a car's fuel gauge, sometimes we're totally full. Our cup has been filled, our emotional fuel tank has been filled, and we feel great and our gauges are full. But sometimes we are literally running on fumes, and we can feel that. And so our goal isn't of self-care is not to never use fuel, because obviously we're going to use fuel in our day-to-day lives, but it's not to be so empty that we stall out on the highway of life. And so it's not to get so low that we just can't go anymore. And so really, what is self-care or what is wellness? Um, it's that maintenance. It's not these luxury things that we do. It's not our spa days and our vacations and our facials and those big gestures, but it's maintenance to just keep ourselves running at our best. An analogy that I really liked that I heard one time is when we think about athletes, every day they put in that practice so that they can perform in the game the best that they can. The same is true with us. If every single day we're doing small things to take care of ourselves and be the best parents we can be the best spouse we can be the best friend we can be, or an employee that we can be, that's maintenance. It's small things to take care of ourselves and maintain our health and our wellness. So it's just any intentional act that maintains or improves our well-being. So just like, we have to keep our oil changed in our car, we have to put air in our tires, we have to do all of the, change out our windshield wipers when they start messing up. All of those small things that we do to a car to make sure that it runs effectively, we have to do to ourselves so that we have maintenance for our mind, our body, and our spirit. So, some common misconceptions that some people have about wellness and self-care. First is that, and I think this, is huge, especially with moms. We have that mom guilt a lot of times, is that it's selfish. We don't want to take care of ourselves because we're so busy taking care of everyone else. But it's not selfish to take care of ourselves. We know that if our gauges go all the way to empty, if we're run ragged, if we're running low, we can't take care of anyone else. And so, you can't run from an empty tank, but if we refuel a little at a time, then we'll eventually be full again, or at least full enough to be able to perform the things that we need to do. And so it's essential to take care of ourselves. It's not selfish. It is something that we have to do. Another misconception is that it's expensive. There's always, I don't have money to go, have a spa day, or I don't have money to go join a gym or do these things. But real self-care is often free and just simple things that you can do at home or, in your spare time. And so it's it it's most of the things that we think of as wellness don't cost anything. And another huge one is I don't have time. Especially if you're running your kids everywhere, you have a full-time job, you're, making dinner, you're helping with the homework, you're doing all of these things, and you're thinking, I can't fit another thing in. How in the world am I going to fit in some self-care? But even 5 minutes of intentional refueling makes a difference. Sometimes just making yourself be intentional, making yourself slow down and focus on yourself is what our body and our mind really need. So why is this so important for parents especially? When we feel better as parents, our entire family is going to function better. When we feel our best physically, then we're able to do more as parents. The same is true emotionally. When we feel better emotionally, then we're going to be better parents as well. Um, Also, when we are taking care of ourselves, we're better emotionally regulated. We have reduced stress and our patience is increased. So we have better patience to deal with our children when, they're mom, 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 they need all of those things. And all those stressful situations come up, we can handle those better because we've taken care of ourselves. Our fuse is not so short. And most importantly, probably, is that it models those those things and all of those coping strategies to our kids. If they see us taking time to take care of ourselves, then they're going to say, "Oh, when mom is stressed out or when mom needs a break, this or dad or whoever, then this is things that they do. They say, I need a few minutes. I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to journal, or I'm doing this, whatever those strategies are for you. Then if they see you doing that on a regular basis, they're going to pick up on those things and learn some emotional regulation as well. So we've got to be able to recognize our warning lights, just like, on our car dashboard, we have all those warning lights that tell us, we're running out of gas. Your safety belt isn't locked. Your car is running out of oil. Check your engine light, all of those things. And you pay attention to those warning lights most of the time. And so your body and your mind have those warning lights as well. And sometimes we're really good at paying attention to those, and sometimes we push them aside and say, I'm not going to listen to you. But if we keep pushing them aside and we don't listen to them, it's eventually going to catch up with us. And so you've got to learn those signals that your body and your mind are trying to tell you. So some of those things are things like chronic fatigue. So if you got it, you got sleep and you still wake up exhausted, or maybe you're having trouble falling asleep. Those are some signs. That irritability and short temper, you have a short fuse, everything's getting on your nerves, you know, forgetfulness, you're feeling overwhelmed. Some of these feelings are different for everyone. And so you've just really got to understand what your personal check engine light is and know that, okay, this is my signal that, I need a break. Even if it's just 5 minutes, I need to step back and really have some time for myself. We know that if we ignore those warning signs, like I said, it's eventually going to catch up with us. Just like with our car, I'm probably the worst about this when it comes to my car. If it's making a noise, just turn the radio up louder. And my husband's like, he'll get back in the car and say, okay, how long has that noise been happening? Oh, I was just hoping that would go away. Well, when it comes to our bodies, um, and our emotions, those noises and those, signals are not going to go away. That it's only going to get worse. Same, just like with our car. So prevention is always cheaper and easier than major repairs, just like with our car. So if we take care of those issues when they're small, it's going to be a lot easier than when they get into big issues. So, we don't want to break down on the side of the road, emotionally. So we have to not ignore those warning signs and deal with them when they're small issues before they snowball into really big issues. So some of those things can look like burnout. When you just are like, I can't do this anymore. I'm emotionally exhausted, emotional shutdown, or even resentment. And so, we don't want some of those small feelings to snowball into some of those really large issues. So, some areas where we really want to have some maintenance. Physically, we have to take care of ourselves physically. And this doesn't have to be huge, grand gestures. This doesn't have to be, going out and running or joining a gym or totally overhauling what you're eating. This can be just very small steps that really make a huge difference. So, if before you weren't drinking water during the day, start drinking a little bit of water. Making sure that you're prioritizing rest. Fuel your body with what it needs. If you, like I said, if you need water, making sure you're getting water, making sure you're getting some sort of protein, some fruits and vegetables, and then making sure you're getting some movement. And like I said, it doesn't have to be joining a gym or going on long runs. That's not for everyone. Even if it's taking a 5 minute, 10-minute walk around the block, stretching, dancing with your kids, doing something silly, any sort of movement can really help uplift your mood and make you feel better. Also emotional refueling. Sometimes we need that. Um, and especially around the holidays, we have holidays are fun. Holidays, we do so many activities, but a lot of times the holidays are hard. We have sometimes there's loss, there's grief, and reminders of those that we miss. And so give yourself permission to be human, give yourself permission to feel all the feelings that come up. There are no bad feelings, and modeling that for your kids is also really important. If you need to cry, if you need to be angry, if you need, whatever feelings that you need to feel, give yourself permission to feel those and give yourself permission to slow down and stop and have a moment to feel feelings. Sometimes we get so busy in the day to day and so busy with, okay, I have to go to work. I have to help with homework. My kids have this activity, this activity, this activity, that we don't give ourselves time to stop and process the emotions that are coming up, or connecting with a friend and, talking to them about it, or talking to our spouse about it, or whoever, is that, confidant for us. But the important thing is not to bottle those things up because that's when we do have those, breakdowns on the side of the road. And things they don't go away. That does start to show and to come out. Also, we need to take care of ourselves mentally. And so, we need to sometimes turn things off. Um, take thinking breaks. Practicing mindfulness and gratitude is extremely helpful. Um, Gratitude really helps us look at the world in different ways. There's lots of journaling prompts, there's lots of um, meditations, mindfulness practices that you can find online totally free that are like 1 to 2 minute practices, but doing those each day really helps reframe your thinking. And I think it's really important to avoid overfilling your calendar. leave some space for you and for your kids to just have time to decompress and relax and be together, so that you can turn off mentally for a little bit. I think that's super, super important, especially for that burnout piece. Also taking care of yourself socially. We know parenting can feel isolating. Sometimes you're doing things as a parent that no one else is, or you're dealing with things as a parent that you feel like no one else is. And so sometimes you need to reach out to your friends or family, or maybe find support groups that are also dealing with issues that you are as a parent, especially if they're very specific issues. And just remember that asking for help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. Everyone needs help sometimes. And those meaningful connections helps keep that emotional tank full. And then we have our spiritual alignment. Really just asking yourself what gives you direction when you feel lost. That's really what taking care of yourself spiritually and spiritual self-care is. It's not always about religion, but it's just about what gives you purpose, peace, and direction. So that can be meditation, that can be prayer, that can be spending time in nature, whatever helps you, gives you direction when you feel lost.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. I'm going to go ahead and take over. My name is Jessica Hoffman, and I'm the school counseling specialist at Region 9. And so Melissa did a great job, a good overview of what self-care is, what it's not, and some great strategies and things to be thinking of. So we're going to kind of continue along with that same idea and theme. And our next section is looking at the 5 minute pit stop. And so a lot of times, like she said, we have that misconception of, well, I don't have the time. We know we're all very busy. We live busy lives as parents. We're running around and always putting our children first and their needs first, and we don't feel like we have the time. Well, self-care does not have to take a huge amount of time. You don't need a full hour in your day. You don't need a couple hours in the day. It can be just a really quick refuel to kind of reset and help you get through the rest of your day. And so, some ideas to think about is just taking 1 minute of some deep breathing to just kind of help you slow down and focus and be able to not respond right away. When you do that deep breathing, it actually activates your nervous system that relaxes your body, the part of your nervous system that relaxes your body. And it also reduces the cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone. So there's actually science behind the importance of that deep breathing. The same thing with hydration. She was talking about, trying to drink a little bit more water during the day or being aware of your water intake because staying hydrated, it also influences those cortisol levels. So reducing that stress hormone and reducing inflammation. So we just feel better because when we feel better physically, it affects, how we feel mentally as well. Getting out and getting some sun and being out in nature, being in those green spaces also active lowers that network of nerves that activates that fight or flight. And so being out in nature, connecting and getting that sunlight is very important. If you have a job like I do where you're working inside, sitting at your desk, so many hours of the day, I try to make it a point to get up and at least go outside or go near a window or something to get some of that sunlight. And then right along with that is getting up and moving. So making sure you're doing some sort of stretching, exercising, because again, that's going to reduce that stress hormone and improve your mood by increasing those endorphins. So again, those 5 minute little pit stops, it doesn't have to take a whole lot of time. It can be simple little breaks throughout the day. Creating your maintenance schedule. So if you're like me, I'm a huge planner, and if I have it written down, I'm intentional about doing it. So if I have a to-do list and it's on my calendar or if it's on my to-do list, I'm going to get it done. And so sometimes if we don't schedule it in our day, it's not going to happen. So it's real important to, see self-care as just as important as any other appointment on your calendar. So kind of just reflect on what are some things that small things that I could do daily or weekly or even monthly to kind of recharge and set time for that. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of time, and I would make it part of your routine. Like I said, if you make it intentional and part of your daily routine, it's something you don't even think about. Maybe set your alarm 15 minutes earlier in the morning and have time to do a reflection or some journaling or to drink that cup of coffee before anybody else is awake. Or have a bedtime routine, something you do every night with, maybe it's taking time to read or, do something that is just part of your daily routine that you may not see as self-care, but you're actually taking care of yourself and it's planned in your schedule. Family self-care. So we talked earlier about how important it is that modeling that we're doing for our children, and we don't always think that. And regardless of the age, they're always watching, right? They're always seeing what we're doing, and they're always picking up on things, whether we want them to or not. They're paying attention when we don't think they are. And so, if we make wellness a whole family team effort, we're not only modeling that self-care, but we're also showing our kids how important it is and prioritizing that with them. And it can be just simple things like one of my favorite things to do with my family is when the weather is cooperating, taking family walks. We get the dogs on our leashes and we go and we take walks together and just having that time where we're disconnecting from technology, we're getting out of the house, we're connecting with nature, and we're just visiting and talking and spending time together as a family. So, like I said, with the technology, let's put it away and let's have a dinner where we're actually socializing and talking to one another or having family game nights. I think we get so wrapped up in the busyness of the day to day that we get into that trap of the TV or the technology, or the kids get online and do their gaming and things like that. And I think it's important to step back and reset and try to spend a lot more time together as a family because it's actually beneficial to our self-care as well as our children's. Setting those healthy boundaries. I know this is not always easy, but it's very hard to learn, but it is okay to say no. And if you do say no to something, don't feel like you have to justify that you have to give a reason as to why you can't do something. Boundaries, I love this analogy of that boundaries are the guardrails that protect your energy. If we just give and give and give, we're going to get our tank to empty and we're not going to be able to go anymore. And so make sure that we're setting those boundaries and saying no or delegating out those different tasks so that we have enough fuel left in our tank. And as it says here, clear lanes make for a safer, smoother ride for everyone. So say no if you need to say no, or, I can't do that right now. Maybe I can help later. And you do not have to justify that reason. You've got to take care of yourself. So managing stress on the road. So practicing that calm under pressure, that is very hard as a parent. A lot of the times we're put in situations or our children do things and we want to react and respond and we're with anger a lot of the times, and it's very important that we stay calm under that pressure and that we remember to focus on those things that we can control. Going back to remember, we're constantly modeling for our children too, so taking that moment to step back and just taking those deep breaths, calming down, thinking it through before we respond or before we react in that moment. Take time to think it through, reframe that whole journey. It is hard. Parenting is hard, absolutely. But when I say it's temporary, anything that you're going through is temporary. We're going to get through it, and in the end, the sky's going to be clear. As a mom that has two students who, my older two are out on their own now, and yes, we're still parenting, but it's amazing to see them, becoming young adults and I was like, okay, I didn't screw them up too bad. They're doing okay. And so the sky will clear and don't focus on all the negatives all the time. That roadside assistance, as we talked about earlier, that social connection is so important. So think about who's on your team. Who are your go-to people that you can go to when you're needing support, when you're needing help? It could be your partner or your spouse, maybe a network of friends that you have or family members. I know my go-to is still my mom and my sisters, so and then if it gets to that point, it's okay if we need to look at a counselor that we can talk to or getting into support groups. We just want to make sure that we have that assistance team, like your pit crew, in place to help you and support you so that you don't just completely break down. So, asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's just part of being resilient. And the preventive maintenance, doing those regular check-ins. Like she said earlier, we're not going to wait till we break down on the side of the road before we check and make sure we have enough gas or that we, had changed our oil and things like that. So make sure you're doing those regular check-ins with yourself. So just daily, like I said, maybe in the evenings when you're getting ready for bed, do some reflection. How full is your tank throughout the day? And if you need to, slow down. Reprioritize some things on your schedule. Try to reschedule some things if you feel like you have overscheduled yourself, because those small adjustments now are going to prevent that major breakdown later. That's going to cost a lot more time and money and be a little bit more serious to your health. So making sure we're doing those regular check-ins. So self-compassion. Nobody is perfect. Okay, we're all in this parenting business and this game of life and journey of life together, and we just have to learn from our mistakes and move forward. No one is perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. They're going to happen. So just be kind to yourself in that moment. Um, and positive self-talk is so important. We teach our children that all the time, and we try to lift them up and encourage them and try to help build their self-esteem. But then sometimes we're the worst critic of ourselves and thinking negative thoughts about ourselves and putting ourselves down. So I love how this says here to speak to yourself like you would your best friend or even your child. Say those positive things and remember that it's all about progress and not perfection. And a disclaimer here that I would say is to be cautious of that social media comparison. I know as a parent, I fall into that trap a lot. But you've got to step back and realize no one's going to put out there for the world to see all their negative and all their bad things that are going on, right? We're only highlighting those positive things and making everything look perfect. So do not try to compare yourself to other parents that you see, either on social media or out in movies and TV and things like that, because that's not reality. We're all going to make mistakes and nobody's perfect. So, just a little quick recharge recap of what we've talked about so far. The importance of that physical, making sure that that doesn't mean to go sign up for a 5K tonight, right? And to start training and spending a lot of time, but it's just making sure you're taking care of yourself and getting that rest, getting that adequate sleep that you need, giving yourself mental breaks throughout the day and moving. Like I said, if you have a job that you're sitting at your desk all day, built in time to get up and just walk around and move around throughout your day. The mental, making sure that we are slowing down, taking a mental break as well as a physical, where we can just pause and then kind of reset and be able to focus and move forward. The spiritual, as we said, that doesn't necessarily just mean religion. It's just giving yourself time to reflect and realign and find your purpose and reset your mind. The emotional is allowing yourself to feel those feels, and to connect with someone to help you through those times when you're struggling. The best thing we can do is model that for children and show them that it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to cry and it's okay to feel sad and to feel angry and to feel anxious. But the important part is what we do with those feelings. So, feeling the feels and modeling that for our kiddos. And that social, build your social circle. It does not have to be big. Just make sure you at least have one social support that you can reach out to and talk to and get support and encouragement when you need it. And then that routine, if you can just make it part of your daily routine and where it's planned and just a natural part of the flow of your day where you're not really thinking about it, it's not one more thing to add to your to-do list. Okay, so we're going to do just a kind of a quick reflection activity. So I want you to just pause for a minute. We've been talking a lot. So, and just think of one area that we've talked about tonight where you feel that your tank is running really low. Or just one area of your life. Are you having a hard time with the physical, the mental, the social? Where are you feeling really low and you just don't have the energy or enough fuel to keep going? And just kind of self-reflect on that. If you've thought about an area that you're kind of running low in, then I want you to think about a realistic step that you can take just this week, just even tomorrow. What is something you can do tomorrow over the weekend to help refill that? So what's one realistic small step that you can take to help fill your tank where you're feeling low? And maybe for some accountability, jot that down somewhere for you. Put it on a post-it note, put it in the notes on your phone, something like that. Just have that little reminder there for you. Maybe put the sticky note on your nightstand or on your bathroom mirror, and just be very intentional about it this next week and see how that goes for you. Okay. So, some resources for your journey as we are focusing on and trying to improve our self care and put ourselves first so that we can continue to love and serve our children and our families. There are some apps that you can put on your phone that help you with some meditation or some calming strategies. Calm is a good one that I've used quite a bit. There's Headspace, Insight Timer. These are all apps that actually I have a son who was struggling with chronic pain, and these were all apps that his um, counselor at Cook's actually even suggested. So I know they're really great apps to use to help for students as well. Some books, Atomic Habits is a great one that I've read, and then there's Self Compassion by Kristen Neff. If you enjoy reading and want some self-help, self-care books. And then again, just leaning on that support, finding a group of parents that you can connect with and get support from, talking to the counselors, even local helplines if you need it. And then we're going to close out watching this little video that kind of recaps pretty much everything we've talked about this evening. Let's see if we've got sound.
Is there no sound?
I didn't hear any.
Oh, okay. Let me
Yeah, give us 1 second. We'll get that fixed.
it's sharing. Okay. There we go. Now.
Take 2. There we go.
And when I first learned that I was pregnant 7 years ago, my whole mindset shifted from one of me to we. I became obsessed. From getting all of the right prenatal vitamins, to drinking tons of water, to moving my body. Everything I was doing was for this other life form that I wanted to be absolutely sure was going to be healthy and happy. But I want to challenge you today. I want you to consider the notion that mothers not only could, but should be more selfish. Now, before you roll your eyes, or laugh, or judge, hear me out. Because I'm coming to you with this because I was a mother that was not being selfish, was not taking care of myself. I was doing everything I could for my son at the expense of my own mindset and well-being. And all of that came to a head one night. My son was about 6 weeks old. We were going through our nighttime routine. I had him in the bath. He's splashing in the water. And he's looking up at me with these beautiful blue eyes and smiling. And I just start to cry. I'm crying. And I'm thinking, Liz, what's wrong? Why aren't you happy? Your son is healthy. You're healthy. Why are you in such a dark place? And in that moment of darkness, my own mother's words came through, as they often do, don't they? I remember her saying, Liz, if I didn't get my run in, if I didn't do my Joni Greggins workout tape, I wasn't me for the day. And I thought, of course, I haven't been taking care of myself. You see, my mother was one who ran the household. She had 4 crazy children, And my dad was in the Marine Corps, so he was often deployed or working 18-hour days consistently through my whole childhood. So she was manning the fort. She was holding it down, and she was doing an amazing job. She was always such a light, a source of positivity and fun and engagement. It was rare that she brought out the wooden spoon. So I thought, okay, well, if a run is good enough for my mother, it's got to be good enough for me. I resolved in that moment on the floor to make self-care the priority in my life. I had to save myself. So the next day rolled around, I get in my workout gear, I lace up my shoes, I hand my son to my husband, and I head for the door. And as I'm walking to the door, I have this overwhelming feeling, and I think you know what I'm going to say. It's that mom guilt. It's the mom guilt. It's as ubiquitous as the worry, which is also always with us. And I thought, oh, here we go. And I don't know if it's because our children are physically part of us for so long, and so when we separate, all these alarms start going off. But I just thought back to that night on the bathroom floor, and I said, I can't go back to that. I won't. So I left, and I headed out on the road. And as I'm paddling along, it was rough. My muscles were tired. I'm already out of breath. I'm like a minute in. I have this other feeling welling up inside of me. It's one of joy, of bliss, of excitement. I'm getting it. Even as I'm talking about it now, I can feel it. It's back. And I was back with that person that has been with me from my first breath and will be there with me at my last breath. I was back with her. And it was magic. And I thought, okay, I'm on to something. And so I finished my run, I head back into the house, I walk in, and that sense of elation is literally just beaming out of me towards my son, towards my husband. He's looking at me like, who is this woman? I've missed her. But I knew this was it. And so the next day, I didn't run, a little sore, but I took out my journal. So I'd always loved journaling when I was little. So I'm writing, and I thought it would be a 5-minute practice. It turned into 20. And everything, all of the worry, all of the stress, all of the, am I being a good enough mom? Am I doing enough? Was out of my body, through the pen and onto the page. It was out of me. And after I was done, I felt that lightness again. I felt that joy again. And then I was off, with the rest of my day. I was like, okay, this is what I need to do to feel whole and ready for the day. And I know not all mothers struggle with this. My mom obviously instinctively knew what she had to do to fill her cup. Another woman that I interviewed on my podcast, her name was Jo, she became pregnant when she was 16, and she was kicked out of the house. She was on her own with a new baby. And through that struggle, she developed her own self-care practices. She meditates, she says daily positive affirmations, and she works out. And her son is grown and out of the house, and she still does these things each and every day. And she is a source of light and positivity and generosity to everyone that she touches. And so that's what I mean when I'm talking about selfishness. I really just mean self-care. And you don't have to change your whole life to do it. It can be done in as little as 5 minutes a day. You don't have to go on a week-long yoga retreat. You don't have to spend a bunch of money on massages. You don't have to run away with that cute guy from the grocery store. At least not initially. No, these are small, intentional practices, whatever works for you, that you do every single day. It changes everything. And your children, who we all know watch every single thing that you do, are watching this too. They're modeling their behavior from what they observe. If you are a person who actively takes care of themselves, loves themselves, they're going to do that too. And if you think that you don't have enough time, you do. I'm going to prove it to you. So I want everyone here to close your eyes and visualize someone that you love more than anyone in the world. Picture their face. Feel the emotion that you have towards them. Now I want you to imagine 5-year-old you, maybe running around the aisles in this theater. Call that child over to you and have them sit in your lap. And Send that love that you just had for that first person towards that 5-year-old you. Feel it. And let's breathe together. We'll do 3. So deep breath in and out. In and out. One more time. In and out. And open your eyes. How do you feel? I bet you feel a little bit different than before that practice, don't you? That's it. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's simple. And you don't have to be a mom for this to be a benefit. Dads need this just as much. Caregivers, if you're taking care of your older parents, you need this. If you have a demanding job, you need this. Imagine how much more empathy and creativity and just a sense of well-being that you're going to give not only to your coworkers, but to your clients. This could change your entire career. An idea that you would have during a meditation or a journal session could propel your career in ways you have no idea. I mean, it's that magical. It's that impactful. It's not woo-woo. So, as we head into a busy week ahead, I encourage you, I plead with you, take at least 5 minutes to connect back with that inner child that was just sitting in your lap just now. Send yourself some love. Connect with your breath. Connect with the person that you really are, who you really are. Because self-love and self-care is the key to changing everything in your life. So give yourself the permission and don't put it off for tomorrow. Start today. Thank you.
Okay, so I think a few things that really stood out to me and that we kind of already talked about tonight was that it doesn't have to be something big, and just make it intentional and make it part of your routine and make it, it can be 5 minutes or less. It doesn't have to be huge time consuming. So just remembering that we can't pour from that empty tank. Recharging is not optional. It's essential to be the type of parent that we want to be, and we want to make sure that we're modeling that self-love to our own children, because what do we want more than a parent is for our own children to live happy, healthy, productive lives and to love themselves just as much as we do. And so modeling for that for them is so crucial and so important. So thank you all for being here with us today. Does anyone have any questions? We'll open it up for questions or comments at this time. Okay, well, we appreciate you being here with us. And remember to just take time for yourself. It's not selfish, it's essential.
All right. Thank you.